Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 186 of Arsenal Pass. We are here at the World Championships in Osaka.
It's so exciting. We are going to be hearing from, well, you are going to be hearing from me and Pankaj as we go through the event, recaps, talking a bit about what's been happening. You're going to hear an awesome interview from Pankaj as well, but this is epic. I can't believe we're here, and
We're going to hear about his run all the way to hopefully top 8 at Worlds.
or something. We'll do our best. All right, let's get into it.
You're listening to Arsenal Pass, a flesh and blood podcast for players by players, and all about strategy, leveling up, and the latest news in the world of Wraith. Welcome to Arsenal Pass.
Pankaj, here we are at the World Championships in Osaka 2024. We are about to head into round one in this amazing venue. You're on coverage, I'm playing. How are you feeling about everything?
Super excited. I mean, these events are always electric, right? The atmosphere is so amazing. And I'm super excited to be in Japan in general. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a little bit nervous, to be honest. I changed my deck, which I think you're going to grill me with questions about, probably.
Who was surprised, right?
But I am playing Enigma still. I feel pretty good. I got on a lot of drafts yesterday, got on last minute practice, have most of my plans sorted, feel mostly good into most matchups, I think. So yeah, I'm feeling good. When are you on, what rounds are we going to see you on coverage today?
Round 1, 3, 5, and then some of the draft rounds I don't really remember.
And do you have a coverage partner, or are you company changing?
Yeah, I'm with Simon Burn all day, so I'm super excited for that.
100% combo. Well, we're going to continue to bring you updates from the day. This is our Osaka kind of mini vlog pod.
Mm-hmm. So why did you switch to CYB Enigma?
I knew you were going to start with this question.
Yeah.
I think the Dash.io matchup and the Viscerai matchup is a big reason why I think Viscerai biggest reason. I just felt like I could not beat it. It was almost unwinnable without CYB. I think CYB hurts you in the mirror, it hurts you in Aurora, but I think it's just so much better into Viscerai, and I expect the Viscerai to be really strong today.
It is definitely a lot better into Viscerai. I definitely agree with that. How did your first round go?
Round one, got there. I played into Liam Canning from the UK at round 1. He got a really rough start, honestly. He said at the end of the round, he's like, at least you got a goldfish in round 1. I was like, yeah, it kind of was a bit like that, honestly. I think I went under 40 at some point. But, yeah.
And what was he on?
He was on Dash.io. Yeah. Like opened up with a couple of pen scripts, but couldn't really get it going. So
Yeah, that can be real awkward sometimes. Well, thanks and good luck in your future rounds as well.
All right, I've snuck behind the scenes. Pankaj is, I don't know if they know. Honest, do they know?
I've pulled some strings. We're good.
Okay, we're good. We are currently, for audio listeners, I'm currently sitting in the booth at World Championship Osaka 2024 with Pankaj, who he's been here all day. He's used to it by now. But we're coming to you in this segment from here. Where are we? What's happening?
So we are at the end of day 2. We have our top 8 established for tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be, finals and everything. We might have a chance for a repeat world champion because Michael Hamilton did make top 8, so that is incredibly exciting.
By the time this pod drops, they will know the World Championship winner, but we don't know the World Champion. Mm-hmm. So insert name here is either 2-time World Champion or first-time World Champion, and it's amazing.
Yeah, lots of awesome names in the top 8. Quite a diverse spread of heroes as well.
Yeah. Shout out to my boy Sam Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
He's been grinding. He is a phenomenal player, phenomenal person, and I'm so excited to see him make first tier 4 top 8 and at Worlds on a really cool IO deck, which I know you featured maybe once or twice on coverage.
Yeah, we showed him playing the last round of today, actually. So I'm here coming off of the back of watching him pilot the Dash IO deck where he killed Matt Rogers from 49 life to 0 in one turn. It involved 3 high octanes and 3 system resets, and it was incredibly amazing.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go home and watch it. If you listen to the pod, watching the pod, and you haven't seen that game yet, go back, check it out. Obviously that's a highlight. What have been some of your other highlights? Like, what are the narratives from the World Championship 2024 leading into top 8? Obviously there's some top 8, there's some narratives still to play out. Michael Hamilton, 2-time world top 8 competitor, is gunning for that second trophy, right? But what are the other narratives through the days? I remember there was a CYB Bravo 5-0 on day 1 and Hansa McCreath. What other things stood out to you?
So in terms of highlights, at least like yesterday, game 1 really stands out to me. Shoma Yamamura on Viscerai against an Azalea. The game ended with such a climactic finish. He sends a 9th blade with like 10 rune charms behind it. Opponent's at 8, but he has a blood rod on him and he's at 2. So if this doesn't kill the Azalea, he dies on that turn. And Azalea went down to 1, and then Shoma dies to the Blood Rot. It was such a cool finish. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also had Yuki Libenda's game against Pablo Pintor, where Pablo's on new and Yuki's on Dash.io, and it ends with Yuki drawing her last card, which she knew was a blue, just to send a max V for exact lethal, and just snipe Pablo out. So we've had all sorts of cool stories, all sorts of these awesome players just showing off their prowess. That was yesterday, and then today, man, it's been quite a bit of a blur. We definitely had some insane games today as well.
So draft 3 rounds, CC 4 rounds.
Cody Williams was featured on stream. That was a bit of an unfortunate game, to be honest. His deck just really wasn't working for him. But on the other side, we saw a 10k, the Enigma resolved a 10k into a Zen, which is, that's a cool story.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, not something in my sideboard notes I actually was playing into Zen, so interesting to see. I think this format it's so interesting, right? Because it is so close in so many respects. We're in a point of Flesh and Blood where we've got more heroes than we've ever had before, legal and classic constructed, right? And people are showing up with. And I also think, there's a lot of... Okay, Enigma IO coming into it is seen as maybe the 2 most powerful heroes, right?
Yeah.
But the decks behind it, as we talked about on the pod last week, they're not that far behind.
Yep.
And if you have plans, you have strategies, you show up, you play really, really well, variance is going to play a part of it. This format still has variance.
Yep.
But if you play really, really well and things go your way, what we're seeing is that you have to play really well because it is a game of small margins, which I think has been... honestly my biggest takeaway from coming into this meta and getting it right, timing your run right on understanding the meta, which we can talk about. I did not time my run right on understanding the meta. I got it, I would say a little bit wrong. I think we kind of predicted the meta, but I think we misunderstood how people would approach their games, I think, in their plans. So it's really interesting.
Speaking of that, a sort of breakout list is Michael Hamilton's CYB new list, right?
Yeah.
There were quite a few of those running around this weekend, but it really kind of only surfaced about last week.
Yeah, last week sort of thing.
Which is wild, that suddenly showed up. And he's playing that into Enigmas and into new mirrors as well.
He's playing the CYB into Enigma?
Into Enigma. Which you honestly wouldn't really expect, but it's been working for him. He's also playing into new mirrors, and that's also really working.
Yeah.
So lots of cool stuff to say. But you did bring up your run, so let's pivot and talk to you about that. We caught up with you yesterday after round 1. You came off of a win.
Yep.
How did the rest of your day 1 at Worlds go?
So I started off. What did I start off? I think 2-0. I think. And then I took a couple losses. I think I went 2-0 to 2-3. I had a really tough time in CC, and I can dive into as I go through my run. I'm playing the Calling at the moment. My deck looks different. So we went through last week's pod. Obviously, I broke down my deck. We talked a lot about philosophy, I think, and I think the philosophy holds true around a lot of things around Enigma. But I have ended up changing a lot of cards. And I caught you just after my last round, and I said, basically in probably 10 words, this is my philosophy on Enigma right now and what's happening. So I had a bit of a tough time in CC, and then draft, I felt really good about draft. I think this draft format is, it's awesome. I think it's very skill intensive. I think the draft itself is actually really unique. You have to, yellows are really viable, you need them in your deck, and you have to understand, at least you just kind of get given the gift of a seed, which is really hard to find. You really need to work for a really strong deck and a strong plan. So I had I opened Channel Millennium Tree.
Okay, that's a good start. Yeah.
But it also had a Flourishing Aether. The
Exploding Aether?
No, the deal 4 damage one.
Pulsing Aether?
Pulsing Aether life in it. So I took the Channel Millennium Tree, put the person to my left in Verdance, and then I thought I was going to go Florian, and then Florian got pretty cut. Moonblade was pretty cut. So I ended up in Verdance. My deck was pretty solid. But I ended up winning round 1, losing second round, and just deciding that I'm going to drop and get ready for the Calling the next day at X4. I can't day 2. No point playing the last round. So definitely pretty disappointed. Just on a personal reflection, that's kind of 3 tier 4 events in a row where I've scrubbed day 1, which is never a great feeling. But I definitely feel like I learned a lot, so I'm not upset.
On that note, actually, I think we have been noticing that Earth has been really quite favored in this draft format, which is weird because the Lightning Heroes are definitely very, very viable.
Every hero is viable.
Yeah, the feature draft yesterday, the person who went 3-0 was actually Yuki on Aurora in a pod where there were only 2 Lightning Heroes because everyone else was favoring Earth so much.
Right?
So you telling me that you got cut because someone, the people on your right won Florian, person on your left went to Verdance. I was like, that has been part of the narrative for the draft, which is a little strange because this draft format is a lot more diverse than that. It's not just pick Earth. The Lightning Heroes are definitely very, very strong.
No, it's not. And I think the tough thing is, so I took a pick that I don't like to take. I do not like to be in a hero pick one because I think a lot of people I would say the majority of people do like to be locked in within the first 5 picks. I'm happy to float around, give up a couple of picks even, and lock into a class or a talent, sort of, buy sort of 5 or 6, and then pick my lane from there. Like if I can see that, lightning is open, or wizard's open. Okay, great. I've got a couple of like 0 for 3s, and then I go, okay, what happens? What comes to me? Is it the lightning or the earth that comes to me? And I think that is a really strong draft strategy. And I think you see that a lot at the top tables. Yeah. But I also think, if you pick that Channel Millennium tree, and I'm happy to move off of it. But I didn't. And I don't think I misdrafted my seat. I think just that pick and then the combination of the pulsing eighth of life it makes it really tough. Yeah,
and then you're caught between 2 earth heroes. You kind of sandwich.
Cool. Yeah, and I was happy to kind of pivot out into. But what happened first is Runeblade got cut first, and then Earth. So I was like, I can't draft. Maybe I can switch into Lightning, and Lightning ended up being 1 of 3 verdants, so it wasn't the end of the world.
Right.
And it was 4 Earth, 4 Lightning. So I think I was in the right seat. It's just my seat was unfortunate between 2 other Earth drafters.
Yeah, like you should have been in Earth, but you're just sandwiching. You're not getting the premium picks left, all right?
Exactly,
sounds good. So moving on to calling then. So you're playing the calling today. What's your record?
I'm 6-2.
Okay, so super live for day 2, super live for top 8.
Yeah. I mean, I probably need to win out. Or lose the last round, I guess. But I'm feeling pretty good. Like, I think... But basically overnight, I went away, thought about what I said to you, which is basically, I think, Enigma came in a week ago as, I think, maybe the hottest deck. I've been really outspoken on the pod about I think Enigma is the best hero.
She was most represented this past weekend.
100%. But what I think happened in the last week, and we saw this in the ProQuest week 4 results, is we started to see a bit of a shift. And I think the problem is the meta started to spread. We saw the strength of Florian start to come up. We saw the strength of Nu coming back in, and we've seen that this weekend, right? And what's happened, and Viserai, right? Viserai was the narrative probably on Thursday, right? At the banquet, like Viserai.
I think Dio's as well, actually.
Like coming back up a little bit.
Yeah, it was coalescing a little bit. It was like there was a moment where before she actually came to ProQuest, everyone was like, oh my gosh, she's broken. First week of ProQuest, everyone's like, wait, no, she's really fragile. And now we're here, and they found the solutions to the fatigue problem, like Sam Sutherland with triple system reset, for example. They found all these different solutions.
Yeah, and I think what, I guess from that, like what's really ended up happening is that as an Enigma player who isn't, I ended up playing CYB, which I talked about in the pod. I thought I wasn't going to play it. I ended up playing it. But what I think the problem is, and this is part of the reason I played it, Enigma is getting pulled in so many different directions right now. Oh, you want to fatigue -IO. Oh, you need to... Nu is now not a good matchup for you.
Yeah, CYB Enigma is like Nu is totally fine in that matchup because you can't play the CYBs into Nu. And then you lost 9 sideboard slots.
Yeah, but even normal Enigma, honestly, like I think it's now maybe 60 at max, 60% favor.
Yeah,
for
it's
Enigma,
no worse than 40 for Nu,
which is insane. So like you're getting pulled in that direction, you're getting pulled in a direction trying to fatigue. Then you've got to deal with Aurora. Like, what's your plan into Aurora? Are you trying to trade damage and use on hits and things like that? So you're getting pulled in
and
all
then
these
Viserai
right, which I think.
CYB is good into that.
Yes. If you don't have CYB, it's so hard though. So basically you pulled in, and that's ultimately why I played CYB, was Viserai, which I talked about when you interviewed me about 20 minutes ago, but about a day ago, day and a half ago. So I don't know, it's getting pulled in every different direction, so I ended up playing that.
And it looks like it's going well for you. You made day 2 of the calling, so how was your run today? Like, what were the losses to and what were the wins to? Yeah,
I think that's kind of the promising, or like the thing that makes me feel quite good as opposed to yesterday, is I feel like my 2 losses, like I didn't feel like I could do anything about them. I feel like I've played well all day, and I feel like I've come in with, I think I tuned the list, so I'm basically playing a very similar CYB list to what I've posted in last week's pod. We'll also just post the deck down here as well in the description if you're on YouTube. But basically, still CYB Enigma, but I've gone off Waning Vengeance. I've gone off a lot, sort of like Oasis, for instance.
You've gone off Oasis?
Yeah, I'm playing 1 Oasis, but I've gone off the more Oasis. And less defensive cards, more offensive cards. Because I think what you want to do is you want to use your resources as efficiently as possible with CYB, right? And the thought is, well, you use Boots, or you use Oasis, or you use Waning Vengeance, right? In most matchups where you're CYBing, Boots is always live. Like Viserai, Aurora, all this. So like that's kind of given. You got that, right? But when you want to be aggressive and or you need to side them out, you're not really wanting to play during your opponent's turn.
Right.
So instead, I think playing like Spectre, Spears of Surreality, a few more attacks, like 3 Miraging Minimal, for instance. I was even trying to pack some Phantasmaclasm or Weakest Links in there. I couldn't quite fit them, but I think that is kind of, it's don't be as defensive and try and be more offensive with a CYB kind of backup. And that's what I did into, like, I went 2-1 into Aurora today.
Oh, wait, that's nuts.
Yeah,
that's a bad matchup. Yeah.
Playing Refractor and killing them. Like, not fatiguing them, killing them. And then when they kind of take a step back, I just use CYB for value. And I did lose to one where he did have... so my 2 losses were he double flicker single arc with like gold and chest and arms,
the full combo package,
everything. And then I lost a mirror where I was telling Pankaj 41 my opponent ended on when I was at 0. He just got he just steamrolled. He got the snowball, which is often the way in the mirror.
And I mean, if you're on the CYB list, I mean, you have tech for the more aggression, but if when they play the mirror guy and you're holding CYB, it feels like you sometimes just lose like on the spot. I mean, it kind of happens in the mirror, even if non-CYB list. If you can't clear the mirror guy, if you get to swing with it twice, it kind of feels like you're really rough. And if you swing with it 3 times, you just lose the game. Like, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been amazing. Honestly, this weekend. Coming to tier 4 events is actually crazy. There's calling going on. I don't actually know people are in the calling. Do you know? I haven't had a chance.
How many people?
Yeah,
it's about 450, about the same size as Worlds.
Yeah, but the hall is just pumping. Like we just have cosplay contests.
All sorts of side events. Like,
all sorts of side events.
Which are sold out.
Sold out.
I actually ended a little early today. I tried to get in the Dorinthia sealed event, and I was like, they were like, sold out. I was like, what?
Even for you, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't pull strings for that
one. So we are here. I'm glad we did this. It might be a little bit loud. I'm going to try and tidy up the audio for those of you listening on YouTube and podcast. But I think it's just been a cool experience to be able to do this as well while we're here.
That's right.
We're going to come back after that for our final wrap up of the end of the World Championships, and I don't know. Hopefully a calling wrap up. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully a calling top 8, maybe even a win.
I'm feeling good. Yeah. I think my list is. I wish if I had a bit more reflection. I think I would have. I think my list is like 85%, 90% of where I want to be. There's a few more cards I would have changed.
Right.
Didn't quite get the chance or learnings to, but I feel pretty good.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Well, good luck tomorrow. I hope we make it. I want to do our recap tomorrow with you, at least top 8ing.
Okay,
awesome.
I'll do my best. In the meantime, let's hear from you.
Sam O'Byrne, Pankaj Bhojwani, we had just an incredible day yesterday, huh? Tell the people at home about it.
8 incredible rounds, Sam, and of those we had some extremely memorable ones. The first one I want to remind everyone about was that 9th blade, round 1, Shoma Yamamura, our previous PT champ. Not many pick the hero to be here, but I'm sure a lot of people pick this player to be on that hero because it is Alexander Vore piloting Acilio, our newest wizard from the later set. Well, one of the 2. Gone in a flash back to Arsenal. We speak about recurring threats. That's one of the cards that can just recur itself again and again. And we just saw the deck being spread out. 4 cards remaining for Rob Catton in deck. 4 in hand and 1 gone in a flash in Arsenal. 9 cards remaining. 23 live remaining on Gregor's side.
Well, Pankaj, we've just seen a nice highlight reel of you from the World Championships 2024. I kind of want to break into, I guess, this last segment of the pod where we're here in person. We're 4 days removed from the World Championships. Everything's settled down. Our thoughts and feelings have settled down. The discourse is raging online.
Yeah, and we know the winner this time compared to the last time you heard us speak like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, we know. I mean, massive congratulations to Grzegorz Kowalski. I mean, for people that don't know much about Grzegorz, he is a card player from way back. He's actually sat in a World Championship final before. And fallen.
For Magic?
Yeah, 6 years ago against Javier Dominguez. One of my favorite facts is that 2 weeks ago, Javier took out the Magic World Championships.
The second one.
His second one. The first one Javier won was beating Grzegorz in the final. I mean, it's just an insane story. I don't think... there's a lot of narratives in this top 8, right? And I think Grzegorz is also amazing. So, yeah, congratulations to a player now who's been there, I think, through the first... I think he's played all 3 World Championships, I believe.
I'm not so sure about that. But, yeah, I mean, he played excellently. Like, I want to echo your congratulations to him. I think it can sometimes be lost in the current discourse that's going around with the fact that he played CYB.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot to commend him regarding just how to play a fatigue style deck properly, which is a lot less clear cut than it seems on the surface.
Yeah, people go, you just block and you just gain your life, and it's
blocking is hard.
Blocking's hard.
Yeah.
Yep. And open deckless in top 8, right? Grzegorz knows he's got to play around those 2 poison the wells. And I think did so to perfection as well, right? Knew that second one was an Arsenal. If you haven't gone and seen the game, go and watch it. I mean, all of the top 8 games honestly were great. I guess that's where I want to start with you is, what do you think of the top 8? Like for you, I mean, what is kind of the highlights? Like to me, I've only seen some of the coverage, but I think this is one of the best top 8s for a Pro Tour we've had.
Yeah, I think almost all the games were absolute bangers, which isn't something we've been able to say before. I think the one that sticks out to me was the Sam Sutherland versus Michael Hamilton quarterfinal. That was so incredible. It was just, you thought the game had ended when all the system resets were banished. Like when he goes Bonds of Agony, and all the system resets gone. But then Sam Sutherland, he was forced to take some gambles after that. He's like, all right, play a boom grenade, pass. Play an item, pass. Do you have the disruption? And then the couple of turns where Hamilton just had, dagger into something that doesn't super matter.
Yep.
And Sutherland capitalizes on it and then ends with the maximum velocity. It was beautiful. It was very, very well done.
You want to talk about, we're going to talk a lot about Count Your Blessings this week, and I imagine next week, ban restricted announcement is on Monday. Spoiler, me and Pankaj have differing opinions on what's going to happen in that, which we'll talk about at the end of this pod.
No inside information from either of us, by the way. Yeah.
Definitely not. Just different opinions on what we think might happen based on what we've seen this past weekend. But the one thing you saw in that game is that, Michael did play some Count Your Blessings, but they came at awkward times. And Sam took massive advantage of them by using setup turns to his advantage. I think Hamilton played 4, by the end of the game.
Yeah.
And actually, if you do the math, the first, second, third, and fourth kind of suck.
Pretty bad. Yeah. It's both awkward times, in terms of the on hits, but also just the fact that against Dio, they deck out so much faster.
Yeah.
That you're not going to be resolving very, very efficient CYBs, because by the time you see your 5th or 6th, you've already won or already lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can dive into it. I think that's why Enigma is by just clear and far away the best CYB deck. And in my opinion, why I think the CYB works best in Enigma.
Do you not think the same thing applies if it's Enigma on the CYB though, against a Dash IO?
So I think we had different opinions on this, right? From my testing, I think Dash IO to standard Enigma, I think is IO favored. I think it's kind of a 60%er roughly, maybe even slightly more. I think into CYB, it's pretty. I think it's the flip opposite. I think it's a 70 to 60 matchup for CYB Enigma, and I think a big part of that is one of the most punishing things that Dash IO can do is set up things like pen scripts, set up things like system resets, for instance. And if the opponent develops some auras or presents threats to attack, Dash IO doesn't really care too much. I mean, the biggest, scariest one is Essence of Body Red, Essence of Ancestry Body, rather.
Yeah.
But if you have a bunch of other auras in play, that can get quite awkward. Whereas if you just gained a bunch of life, that card is at its most efficient when it's single aura. Because what happens is you go, okay, I need to turn this on, sacrifice all my other auras, get ready to play it, and they go, just play a setup and pass. Okay, well, I could have blocked these cards and used my other auras, and then because I was trying to set up my body, and instead what's happened is I've not used my hand, used all these auras trying to set up bodies to block afterwards. And I think that's a big part of it. I think Essence of Ancestry Body is, honestly, against aggro decks in the Fatigue plan, is the most egregious card, not Count Your Blessings.
I mean, Gregor wasn't on it. Wasn't on Essence of Ancestry and wasn't on Dense Blue Mist either.
Yeah.
Which is super interesting.
Very interesting.
I thought he'd definitely be on that, but probably didn't need it.
No, I mean, just too skilled to play, honestly.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you want to talk top 8? I guess, is there any things you want to hit that were most interesting standouts to you? I mean, of course, at this point, people have probably watched a lot of coverage, but maybe for those that haven't, or maybe things that just really stood out to you as the most exciting moments. Do you want to hit a couple?
Right, so Sam Sutherland, Michael Hamilton, that was really cool. I want to shout out Mercy Bickle, of course, in her game against Valentine. Was just piloting that excellently. There were lots of decisions where if you're just watching it, you're kind of confused. There were inefficient lines. But the reason is she was playing towards only arsenaling an instant because the opponent had 6 Arsenal disruptive pieces, 3 CNCs and 3 dissolve realities.
Yep.
So she only ever put instants in Arsenal, which means she was pitching a Gone and Flash to swing sword and then attacking with a Gone and Flash. That was one play I remember her doing. And only putting Sigil of Solace or Channel Lightning Valley in Arsenal.
Yep.
So that whenever he had the disruption, she just responded with the instant and kind of blew him out, and that happened twice in the game, and then she won that very, very convincingly. I thought that was really, really cool. That's not really a specific moment, but just a game plan that was executed excellently and seems confusing if you don't know what's up. And then what else?
Well, even the semi-final between Sam and Mercy, I think it looked a bit odd because Mercy set up in almost the style you would play into a Fatigue deck, not an aggro deck. Presented I think Crown of Dominion. And chest.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's quite interesting. But I think Mercy correctly recognizing that is not a particularly favorable matchup if you just play as a typical aggro deck with your headpiece, your blocking headpiece, and try and trade damage with IO, because they will they will destroy you. And I think that is where, I don't know what Mercy's run was like into top 8, but I imagine if Mercy, if she was sitting up in that way to play into those aggro mirrors of like, I'm going to do the thing my deck does best, which is draw into my damage and do my damage turns, then I'm going to win these games. It's high risk, high reward, but you're at the World Championship. Like, it's a game of small margins, and honestly, you need some variance to be on your side. So I thought that was really smart and really interesting. Even choosing to go second in that matchup where a lot of people were like, I'm not putting IO first. But you know what? If IO hits, great, you've done the thing. If you start and they just draw basically nothing or one boom grenade, cool. I'm off to the races.
Yep, Mercy actually picked up that deck the day or two before Worlds, and she was getting tutored for the deck by Ellie Bird and Yuki Bender.
Yeah.
So their testing, they came out with, okay, Aurora's unfavored into Dash.io. So it's exactly what you said. They're like, the best chance to win is to just increase your variance. You just go for the higher output combo line, and you hope you find it in your first 3 turns, because if you don't, they'll kill you. I think there's a lot of merit in that. I do enjoy that. And then there was also the Alan Lau game against Gregor, which is really cool. It was kind of like the opposite of what happened for Michael Hamilton when he was against Sam Sutherland, where Michael Hamilton was finding his awkward colors of counter blessings first. He was finding, like, he had resolved 3 or 4 when the game ended, but it was like the blues and the yellows. Whereas Gregor resolved like the reds. He also didn't resolve all 6. I think he resolved 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's about right.
And because of Dash.io, right? We already spoke about that. But he resolved the better ones, like the reds and the yellows. And Alan Lau on the flip side was using blue cards and boosting red cards away, which was unfortunate. And he lost the game at 3.
Yeah.
So it's really one of the things where if just a few of the CYBs had been blue, and if a few of Alan's offensive cards were red instead of blue, he really could have just taken that out. So I think that's also a cool game to watch.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I haven't watched back all the coverage. I've bits and pieces here and there. I mean, I was in day 2 of the calling, and in between, had my phone out, and I saw a majority of the Sam Sutherland Hamilton game, which was phenomenal. I'm excited to go back, and I've seen bits and I saw a lot of the final. We went to dinner, saw a lot of the final while we were at dinner. Obviously, went on quite late. I mean, I guess is there anything else you kind of want to touch on before we kind of move on to maybe the calling in and just talking about what ended up happening from a meta perspective from this event?
So CYB ended up being more real than people thought. Well, I guess
some, right?
We kind of predicted this, right? Remember we were talking about how it's like, okay, I think community sentiment on CYB is going a bit lower, but that's kind of the best moment for CYB to come in and take it down, which I think exactly what happened, because if you look at the top 8, I think only one person had tech against CYB, and that was Mercy Pickle.
Yeah, the one who went to the final.
On Poison the Well. And like I think a lot of other players had like skimmed on their counter blessings tech exactly because of what we were saying before.
Yep.
The sentiment has been decreasing a little bit.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It sets you up in this position. I mean, from my perspective, choosing to play CYB Enigma at this event, and I played it back in the calling with a slightly different list, which we'll talk about, but still on Count Your Blessings Enigma. I think, for me, the scariest thing wasn't the decks that necessarily came with the hate, and I think this will be a question that continues through, is can you effectively counter it? I think what was scariest to me was the decks that said, I'm a deck that could play it, but I'm going to not play it. So, i.e. the Enigma mirrors, where they have more efficient auras, things like that, new, that was set up to, rather than playing Count Your Blessings, set up with pick your pieces and more go wide cards, looking for a scrap, things like this. Scarf for Scar, and Lion Strike, set themselves up in a way to really pressure you. That was the way to target Count Your Blessings in my view. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week with Ban and Restricted, because I think there's a lot of discourse about Count Your Blessings. Some of it I think is a bit misunderstood in terms of people haven't maybe played, they haven't gone deep enough on, some of the complaints around CYB being just a life gain tool that is a bit unfair. When you break down the math of it, it isn't really, right? Like, you don't turn the corner on Count Your Blessings being worth more than the 2 cards you put into it until you get past that 5th and 6th CYB, right, depending on the colours of it.
Yep.
And you really need to be able to use that extra resource at CYB 3, 4, 5 to get any kind of nice trade on it. So out of your 2 cards, that's again why I think Enigma works so well. Although in saying that, I think Nu does have some lines offensively.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Which is really cool, and is the reason that I changed my list a little bit. Thinking of my list, I talked to you about this last week on the Saturday, of why I went to a slightly different approach with CYB Enigma, which we can get into. But
So I guess while we're on this topic of CYB right now and talking about like philosophy around it, let's just real quick go over it right now about expectations for BNR and whether you think it'll be
let's do it.
Like, we can do that right now before we move on, because we also want to hear about your run before we move too far into the calling. So okay, CYB.
Banned or not next week, and why or why not?
Not banned. I think if it gets banned, it would be just due to community pressure on LSS, and they've not typically responded to that.
Yeah.
I think they like to take a step back, really view the game in the way that they think it should be. But they take it in terms of take on that feedback, but I don't think it's going to impact enough, because I don't think, just from my view and playing with CYB and testing with it, I don't think it is a card that is either A, too strong, or B, actually hurting the game. I actually think it has a positive effect on the game. So I think it opens up a lot of avenues in terms of how the decks that can be played because of it. So I say no.
I agree that its power level is not ban-worthy to me.
Yeah.
I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's unbeatable, like not even close. I think it'll be banned though, because of coverage reasons. I think it's got nothing to do with power level in the game itself. It is just a little bit of a... Well, it's weird. It's actually super strange. I heard a lot of people say it's a miserable viewing experience, but that's like sort of me echoing what I've heard, because on my side, when I was casting all the CYB games, they were absolute bangers.
Yeah.
Right? And I was talking about the Alan Lau game, which came down to like 3 life, and that's literally the difference between just a few blues and reds going a little bit differently on either side. Even the Rob Catton game against Gregors was so cool. It was really fun. And there were moments where you watch that back and you're like, man, if you just pushed a little further on that Exude Confidence turn, when Gregors was bricked on 3D reacts, maybe he could have gotten there. The Michael Hamilton game versus Sam Sutherland, which came down to a nail-biter of a final maximum velocity to close it out. We had so many of these super tight games on coverage because of Count Your Blessings. It feels weird to say this, but at the same time, that final sort of being a sort of case where the game ended 20 minutes before it actually ended because of Count Your Blessings, and that being the finals, it's strange, right? It feels like it's almost creating this polarizing thing where some games are amazing to watch based on how it ends, but some games are just miserable, just grind fest where the last 20... You already know who's won, but you have to watch 20 minutes remaining anyway. I think that could be why they ban it, but I'm with you. I don't think a power level is ban-worthy.
So I'm going to say this from my side as someone who isn't involved with coverage as just a player. I think, it's really tough because, yes, that game did end 20 minutes before. I think Gregors won that shortly after the CNC into Poison the Well, really. And at that point, I think Mercy had maybe 10 to 13 cards left in deck. Just pure math, there just isn't enough damage at that point once Gregor resolves the next Count Your Blessings.
It could even be argued it kind of ended before that, like after the equipment was used and like not enough damage had gone through. Because, I mean, just going back to how well he played, he was playing around to Poison the Well excellently.
Yeah, he was.
Right, he was like saving the weaker heal for after, if she resolves a Poison the Well, which happened the first time. And you knew he was just sitting on the other one until he finds an Oasis or something to just dodge it. So the CNC happened, but even if it didn't, I feel like the game had already ended, kind of. But yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, I guess the thing is, you're in the final of the World Championship. You don't concede.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Because there's a 0.05% chance you might be able to find a way to win that game, or Gregors doesn't quite understand the end game, which of course he does, but you can't guarantee that, and you've got to say to him, win this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might have an Exude and he's bricked again, like for sure. No, she's supposed to continue playing at 100%. Yes.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing is, in a lot of cases, that game would end in time and it would be fine. So anyway, we can talk more about CYB next week. Let me just quickly do top line of the calling, and then maybe I can give a bit of review on my calling. We talked obviously after day one.
What about your worlds though?
Well, we talked. I think.
Did we go through your full day one?
We did. Yeah.
Oh,
we
okay.
did,
Never mind. Okay.
Just rub salt in the wound. Yes, my 3-4 drop at Worlds. But last time we spoke, I was 6-2 in the calling. I ended up... I felt really good, I think. So the deck that I ended up playing was a much more proactive build. I think I'd kind of spoken it through with you a little bit. I don't know if you have any questions about my list. We can kind of go through it here. But I played cards like Spears of Seriality. I played a lot of Pressure. And I kind of did away with a lot of the kind of blue, sort of maybe some of the blue defensive cards that people were playing, and tried to... Basically, the defense reactions I played were Sinks, Fates, and I played 1 Oasis and 2 Flicker Tricks. But yeah, tried to go down the route of the Spears of Seriality, the Metamorphs, I could have gone further with Phantasmaclasm, I think. That's probably the one I was trying to work out how to fit that in. But I think when you're playing Count Your Blessings, it's really tough. Anyway, I ended up at X3, which is a bubble record, but I lost 2 rounds before the last round, before top 8, so couldn't actually make top 8, but finished in the cash. My 3 losses, I think I couldn't really have done anything about. I lost
So I told you about my day 1 mirror I lost when my opponent ended on 41. On round 3, I think, or round 2 of day 2, my opponent cast 2 Mirage guys on turn 0.
Okay, turn 0?
Turn 0 in the mirror.
Alright, cool.
Pitch for a Mirage guy and then transcend and then play the other Mirage guy. And then quickly managed to then arsenal a defense reaction, play an Astral Etchings, and that 7 power Mirage guy never died.
That's just over.
And I lost the game. Even to the point where actually, and then also played CNC turn 1, 2, and 3 in the game to put all my sort of 5-card setup pressure back. And then eventually, actually, Pankaj was like, I think I can get back into this. I set up a Mirage guy turn, and then he goes Phantasmaclasm.
Oh, God. Real quick, because you brought that up, and we were just talking about bans and restrictions, I actually think Phantasmaclasm should be banned. That's like one of my takes, which I heard no one else say, but I was like, that card is just stupid. But anyway, one card I do want to talk about, speaking of defensive pieces, which I was impressed with all weekend. Yeah. Which is very, very strange, because going into it, I thought this card is hot garbage and no one should play it. But Truce.
Yeah, Truce is mate.
I'm surprised at how good this card actually is. Like especially, I guess I saw a lot on like CYB sides, right? Yeah. And the opponent takes a setup turn because they have to, because you're trying to fatigue them, and then you just play Truce, and it's the most annoying thing for the opponent ever.
It's kind of like CYB 10 through 12. That's how I put it.
Yeah,
because it's
like a turbo blue version of it.
Yes. Because it's great on turn 0. Like you just always get free value of it. You free roll value. But if you're trying to be proactive, the card kind of sucks. Like I think in this build, ideally, if I could find so I think Ancestry of
Essence of Ancestry.
Essence of Ancestry Mine, for instance, is a better blue. But I don't think there's another proactive blue. I mean, Rage Spectre is the best blue, alongside Levels of Alignment and Mirage, right? Like those kind of are that plus the trans,
depending on the matchup,
But then it's like, okay, you play this Truce because it helps you on your plans of fatigue sometimes. But yeah, I think the card is really strong. I think it is a really strong effect at blue. I think most of these kind of decks should be playing it.
Yeah. So what card overperformed for you? Or underperformed maybe? Yeah,
so I guess what underperformed for me was probably things like Oasis Respite, honestly, and some of these more defensive cards that I played on day 1. And what overperformed for me, Spears of Surreality was an absolute beast for me. It was doing work into my Aurora match. Reality Refractor would be the other card that did a lot of work. That was my plan into Aurora. I played 3 Aurora. I think that was kind of, that and Essence of Ancestry Body, honestly, that card is just... That card is kind of insane.
Talk to me about Flicker Trick. How did that serve you over the weekend?
Yeah, Flicker Trick really, really strong into Dash.io. You sided out against Aurora. You don't take the risk unless you knew that they weren't on Lightning Press, which some people weren't, but most were. And it's really good in the mirror because it doesn't get bombed. So
I guess, except when the Phantasmaclasm.
Yes.
Or the attack with
Phantasmaclasm is good. Because it blocks Phantasmaclasm.
Wait,
it's
sorry.
non-illusion
attack. Wait, that's insane. Okay, that's really good.
The card is really bad against is if they are on 3 CNC and 3 weakest link, which more people were than I thought would be, and that is a bit tougher. Cool. But yeah, do you want to talk quickly about the calling, I guess? Yeah. Before we kind of start to wrap up, I guess I want to say a massive congratulations to Nikola Kramic from Croatia on Zen, who ended up winning. Crazy story from Nikola. I don't know if you...
The finals against Anu?
Well, also was in the Team Cup.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Didn't play the semi-final of the Team Cup because it clashed with day 2 of calling, spoke to his teammates, and I think they all agreed, keep playing the calling. He was at 8-0 in the calling. Keep playing the calling, wins the calling.
And then how did they do in the Team Cup?
They did lose the semi-final, but they played with 2 players, right? So
okay.
I mean, it's really tough.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting one. Look, I think my ultimate thing is Team Cup, amazing, fantastic. I think logistically could have been done a little bit better. But I think also congrats to Romania on the win.
Aside from just logistically as well, there were some things on the coverage side which we realized we showed up and we're like, wait, there is no plans for coverage for this.
Yeah.
And there were a few like last minute scrambles to maybe get some content out of it. Yeah. Beyond that part as well, I think it was a bit of misses on that front as well. And I think there were lots of questions like, wait, why isn't this being covered? A lot of people ask me, wait, can we see this anyway, the VODs or anything? And it's just
it's nothing.
No tweets. You can see the tweets.
I watched some of Team Australia. Shout out to my boys there. Did make the semi-finals, and I did watch them play the semi-final against They were against Romania, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe. Yes, because
Malaysia
beat Croatia
Oh, okay. Nice.
against Romania. So I got to see some of the games, but yeah, I really hope for next year. Great first year for it. I think let's build on next year. Let's get it on coverage. Let's work out logistically how we make sure there's no clashes with individual events.
It's a solid event to have.
It's amazing.
It's a solid side thing to have at the World Championships, and it helps a lot, especially for making all the players also to feel rewarded for the achievements that they've achieved, over the years, like over the national championships. So absolutely incredible. Just needs a little bit more coverage, I think.
Yeah. I imagine next week we're going to talk a lot about banned and restricted. I think one thing that I'm going to put on our radar for talking next week, just around maybe reflecting on what this meta is and what it's going to become, because we're heading towards a couple of battle hardens to end the year. We're going to have a living legend calling, which is going to be very exciting. I want to talk a little bit next week about, I referenced it a couple of weeks ago, the head versus heart conversation. I need some time to go back and reflect post Worlds on head versus heart, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that next week with banned and restricted. But before we wrap up, predictions. So you said you think Phantasmaclasm's worth looking at, banned and restricted.
I'm not gonna no. There's no way my prediction is that Phantasmaclasm is gonna be banned, but I think it should.
Yeah.
That's just a balance thing. My prediction is CYB will be banned, and I think they kind of all but confirmed that High Octane's getting banned, which is
safe bet.
Which is I'm a little sad about that. We can get more into that next week. When we actually discuss the ban restrictions. So yeah, I think High Octane is going, and my prediction is CYB is getting banned.
I think my prediction is High Octane goes, and I think there will be discourse through the article. The article's been fantastic recently, giving the reasonings or the not reasonings. I think the cards that they're going to go back and reference yet again, they're going to have a conversation about Blood Rush Bellows. Even though it's I think it's fine at the moment, but it's going to have a conversation alongside High Octane, right? Just reiterating that point about the power level of cards and how they're tied to classes and what the class can do. I think there's going to be some discussion about generic defense reactions. I don't think they're going to be banned.
Yeah.
But I think Sync Below and Fate Foreseen, people want reasonings as to why those cards should stay around. I think not majority of people, but there is a reasonable large section of people who want some reasonings as to why those cards should stay around, because the feeling is that fatigue is maybe slightly too powerful, which I would disagree with. But
yeah, I disagree with that too. I mean, I think we're seeing the sort of immediate fallout of we've had the
knee jerk.
So yeah, sort of like the first major tournament since the Proto after the book banning.
Yeah.
And surprise, it's like, wait, the power level has gone down. You need tools for fatigue now, whereas previously you just put Arvos in your deck and you didn't need it.
Yep.
And we're sort of seeing that sort of reaction happen.
Yeah.
And I personally, like I said, I predict it'll be banned, but I hope it doesn't, because I think there's a lot more evolution, a lot more iteration to come to combat these things. And of course, we also don't even have a full major until the next set, right?
No.
And the next set, I mean, just the way Draconic kind of works, it's a very difficult to fatigue talent historically. So
imagine if Fire's back in the case with Phoenix Flames.
Yeah, you literally cannot fatigue a Fire. This is not possible. So so it feels like there's tools coming and solutions coming. So like I said, power level wise, don't think it warrants a ban, but
No.
Yeah.
I think what's exciting for me as well is if we do get into any kind of fatigue being viable with the Draconic set, it's going to be around fatigue by damage, not fatigue by blocking.
Which is fine.
Yes, which is perfectly fine. That's more what we want. So, I guess the last thing to shout out is my deck list that I played will be down. It's probably somewhat semi-useful still. I really liked the deck list. I honestly felt like I couldn't lose, and not to blame variance or luck or anything, but I honestly felt like I couldn't do anything about my 3 losses. I felt really good all weekend.
I mean, double mirror guy turn 0. Yeah, that's just that's just Enigma things for you.
But the deck list is down below, and if you're a patron as well, up on Patreon, I'll have the full sideboard guide there as well, which you can check out. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Well, congrats on your calling run. I mean, I know it wasn't quite what you hoped for, but you got in the cash, and it's still something to be proud of, I think.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like I did everything I could. I feel like I played well. I feel like I've not played well the last 2 to 3 PTs. So it felt good to feel like I played well this weekend. Maybe got my deck choice or my list slightly wrong on Saturday. Went away, adjusted, and felt like I came back on Friday and adjusted for Saturday. So, yeah. Otherwise, we're going to sign off from Japan. We're going to go have some dinner, enjoy our last few days in Japan. And it's amazing that we've got to spend some time together and do this in person, because you just can't beat it.
It's incredible. It's in the flesh and blood.
It's in the flesh and blood. Well, until next week, see you in the next episode.